Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into near-death experiences today.
Oh,
It's a fascinating topic, and we're going to be looking at some excerpts from Consciousness Beyond Life, a book by Pim van Lommel.
oh yeah, I've heard of that one. And
It goes into like firsthand accounts from people who've had these experiences, but then also what science has to say about it,
yeah,
and even like the philosophical implications.
right.
You
So
know,
it really gets you thinking,
it really does. It's
like what it all
yeah,
means.
what consciousness even is, right?
Exactly.
So just to kind of set the stage for anyone who maybe hasn't heard of NDEs before,
Sure.
there are these like really profound experiences that people report after they've like almost died.
Yeah, like you hear about it a lot with people who've had cardiac arrest
Exactly.
or been in serious accidents.
Yeah, and the thing that's so wild is that, you have all these people from totally different backgrounds,
Mm.
but they describe these like really similar elements in their NDEs.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a pattern.
Right? Like there are these common threads, like feeling like you're leaving your body,
That's a big one.
traveling through a tunnel, or like seeing a bright light.
Yeah, or even having that life review where everything flashes before your eyes.
Right, and it could get even more intense than that. Like
Um,
some people talk about meeting deceased loved ones
I've heard about that.
or feeling this overwhelming sense of peace and love.
Right.
Or like gaining these profound insights into like the nature of reality.
Yeah, it's not just like a hallucination. It seems like something
It's something more.
way deeper.
And it's not just a modern thing either.
No, not at all.
Like there are accounts of similar experiences going all the way back to ancient Egypt,
Oh, wow.
like in the Book of the Dead.
Interesting.
And then you have stuff in Tibetan Buddhism,
Yeah.
the Bardo Thodol.
Right, right.
They talk about these like transitional states of consciousness.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if it's like a universal human experience.
Totally. Even ancient Greek philosophers like Plato were thinking about this stuff.
Right.
Yeah, like this idea that we have an immortal soul that's separate from the body.
Huh. So it's like humanity has always been fascinated by what happens after we die.
It seems like it's this innate curiosity we have about what lies beyond our physical existence.
It makes sense.
So, okay, let's talk about the science for a minute.
Okay.
Because as amazing as these stories are,
Yeah.
there's a part of me that's like, how is our brain creating these experiences, especially when someone's like close to death?
Right. Like, how's that even possible?
Yeah, so scientists have been trying to explain NDEs through like a purely physiological lens.
Okay, makes sense.
One of the most common theories is oxygen deprivation.
Oh, yeah, because when the brain doesn't get enough oxygen,
Yeah.
it can cause all sorts of weird things like hallucinations and stuff.
Exactly. But does that really explain like the clarity and consistency of a lot of NDEs?
That's a good point. I mean, some people come back with these really specific details and insights.
It seemed like they go way beyond just like random brain activity.
Yeah, it's not just like seeing flashing lights or something.
Right. So then there's another theory that says NDEs are triggered by endorphins.
Endorphins. Oh, like the feel-good chemicals.
Yeah, they get released when you're under a lot of stress.
Right, right.
So I could see how that might create like a sense of euphoria or peace.
Hmm.
But again, does it really explain everything people go through during an NDE?
Not really. I mean, it might contribute to the emotional part,
Yeah.
but it doesn't explain those like complex narratives or the out-of-body sensations.
And definitely not like the verifiable detail some people report.
Exactly.
So we've got oxygen deprivation and endorphins.
Yeah.
Any other scientific explanations out there?
Well, some researchers have looked into the role of temporal lobe seizures
Oh, okay.
because those can also cause altered states of consciousness.
Right.
But the experiences with temporal lobe seizures tend to be more like fragmented
Yeah.
and less structured than typical NDEs.
Right. So it seems like there are these pieces of the puzzle that don't quite fit with those conventional explanations.
Yeah, there's definitely something more going on.
Exactly. And that's what makes NDEs so fascinating.
Totally.
They challenge our current understanding of consciousness.
For sure.
And they kind of force us to consider possibilities beyond just the purely material.
Absolutely. And that's where Pim van Lommel's work comes in.
Right. His research suggests that consciousness might not be solely limited to the brain.
Which is a pretty radical idea.
It is, and it's something we're going to be exploring in depth today.
Cool. I'm excited to dive into it.
Me too. So Van Lommel, this cardiologist from the Netherlands,
Okay.
he conducted this groundbreaking study on NDEs in cardiac arrest survivors.
So people who had technically died for a period of time.
Exactly. And the study was designed specifically to rule out those common physiological explanations we were just talking about.
Like the oxygen and the endorphins.
Yeah. So what did he find?
Well, get this. The study found that NDEs occurred in patients even when there was no measurable brain activity.
Well, wait, so even when their brain was basically offline, they were still having these lucid, detailed experiences.
It seems that way, and these experiences couldn't be explained by medication or oxygen levels or any of the usual suspects.
That's mind-blowing.
It is, and this led Van Lommel to propose a theory that really shook up the scientific community.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What's the theory?
It's called non-local consciousness.
Non-local consciousness. Okay, I think we need to break this down a bit because it might be a new concept for some people.
Yeah, for sure.
So what exactly do we mean by non-local consciousness?
Well, essentially it's saying that consciousness isn't bound by the physical limitations of the brain.
So, like, it's not just stuck inside our heads.
Right. It's more like consciousness might exist in a dimension beyond our typical understanding of space and time.
Okay, so like outside of those constraints.
Exactly, and that it can operate independently of the body.
So if consciousness isn't limited to the brain,
Mm-hmm.
could that mean that it continues on even after our physical body dies?
That's one of the big questions Van Lommel explores in his book.
And it has some pretty major implications for how we view life and death and really the nature of reality itself.
No kidding.
Yeah. So we're going to get into all of that and more as we continue this deep dive into near-death experiences.
This is going to be good.
Stay with us. So if consciousness can exist beyond the brain, like, what does that even mean for us as humans?
Oh, man, that's a big one.
It is, right?
Yeah, I mean, Van Lommel spends a lot of time thinking about that in his book.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the most immediate things that changes is how we think about death.
Okay. Yeah.
If our consciousness doesn't just disappear when our bodies die,
Yeah.
then death might not be the end.
Right. Like it kind of takes away some of the fear.
Exactly. It's like in those stories where people have NDEs and they come back less afraid of dying. They've seen something beyond the veil.
It's like they've gotten a glimpse of something that says, hey, there's more to this than just our physical bodies.
Totally. And that kind of leads to another big idea that Van Lommel talks about.
Okay, what's that?
Interconnectedness.
Interconnectedness. Okay.
Yeah, like if consciousness isn't just stuck in our individual brains,
Yeah.
it could mean we're all part of something bigger.
Like a giant web of consciousness.
Exactly. We're not just these isolated beings.
Wow.
We're all connected on some deeper level.
I like that.
Yeah. And that has some pretty big implications for how we treat each other and the world around us.
Right, because if we're all connected,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of makes it harder to be like, well, I'm going to just look out for myself.
Exactly. It fosters empathy and compassion.
Like that saying, we're all drops in the same ocean.
Yeah, but now imagine actually experiencing that interconnectedness.
Oh, yeah.
Feeling it like on a gut level.
That would change things.
And a lot of people who've had NDEs say they felt exactly that.
Really?
A sense of oneness with everything.
Well,
Like they were part of something much bigger than themselves.
that's beautiful. And kind of makes you wonder how differently we'd all act if we really lived with that awareness all the time.
Right. Like what if we could always remember that we're all connected?
It's a good thought. And it's interesting because, Van Lommel talks about how NDEs often lead to these really big personal transformations.
Oh, yeah.
Like people come back with a totally different perspective on life.
They've seen things from a whole new angle.
Exactly. And it's not just about having this mystical experience.
No.
It's about taking those insights and integrating them into your everyday life.
Right. Letting them guide your actions and how you interact with others.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful stories that Van Lommel uses to illustrate this is about a woman named Monique.
Oh, yeah, Monique. I remember her story.
So she had multiple NDEs during a single hospital stay.
Whoa. Multiple.
Yeah, she was in really bad shape after a near-drowning incident.
Oh, wow.
And during her first NDE, she had this really vivid life review.
Like seeing her whole life flash before her eyes.
But it was more than that. Like, she saw the impact of her actions on other people.
Oh, wow.
Not just the events themselves, but like the ripple effects.
Emotional consequences.
Exactly, like how everything was interconnected.
That's powerful.
It was a huge turning point for her. But here's the thing. She had another NDE later on during the same hospital stay.
Wow.
She was still really sick, and she was so desperate to get back to that feeling of peace and love.
That she had during the first NDE.
Yeah, that she actually like ripped out her breathing tube.
Oh my gosh, seriously?
Yeah, it seems like she basically willed herself back into that NDE state.
Wow. That's intense.
It is. And this time she went even deeper into this realm of non-local consciousness.
Like further down the rabbit hole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She described it as this journey through different levels of awareness
Okay.
until she reached this like incredibly luminous, pure form of consciousness.
Wow.
Yeah. And one of the things that really stands out from her account is that she encountered these like brilliant clusters of what she thought was DNA.
DNA.
Yeah, and they were flowing like a river in this field of light.
That's wild.
She described them as conscious elements, each with like vast knowledge.
Conscious DNA. That's a mind-blowing concept.
I know, right? It makes you think about DNA in a whole new way.
Totally. Like, it's not just our genetic blueprint.
Right. Could be something much more.
And that actually ties in with Van Lommel's own ideas.
How so?
Well, he's got this hypothesis about DNA acting as a kind of interface between non-local consciousness and the physical body.
So like a bridge between the two.
Exactly. Like DNA might be this receiver and transmitter of information from this larger field of consciousness.
Okay, so our DNA might not just be about our physical inheritance,
Yeah.
but also about our connection to something much greater.
Yeah, something that goes way beyond just our individual selves.
That's amazing. And it kind of makes me think about epigenetics.
Oh, yeah, that's a fascinating field.
Because it's all about how our environment and even our thoughts and beliefs can influence our genes.
Right. It's like we have more power over our biology than we realize.
Exactly. So we've got this incredible story from Monique about the transformative power of NDEs. And we've got Van Lommel suggesting that our DNA might be this link between our physical selves and this realm of non-local consciousness.
It's all pretty mind-blowing.
It is. But I got to admit, a part of me is still wondering how all of this connects to like the science that we know and understand. Like, where does quantum physics fit into all of this?
That's a great question. And actually, it's something that Van Lommel spends some time discussing in his book.
Okay, so he sees some connections between non-local consciousness and quantum physics.
Yeah, he sees some pretty interesting parallels.
Okay, quantum physics. Now, we're really getting into the deep end, but I'm kind of loving it.
Me too.
It's like we're trying to solve this giant puzzle.
Yeah.
The puzzle of consciousness.
The biggest mystery of all.
And we need all the pieces we can get.
And quantum physics definitely has some pretty interesting pieces to offer.
So what are some of the key concepts that Van Lommel draws on?
Well, one of the most mind-boggling is this idea of quantum entanglement. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but it's always kind of confused me.
Yeah, it's definitely a head-scratcher.
Like two particles are linked together.
Right.
But no matter how far apart they are, they can instantly influence each other.
It's like they're connected by some invisible thread that goes beyond space and time.
That's so weird. It's like they're communicating faster than the speed of light.
Which is supposed to be impossible.
Right. So how does that even work?
Honestly, nobody really knows for sure.
But it's this concept of non-locality.
Right.
That has some physicists wondering if maybe our consciousness is entangled with something larger too.
Yeah, like something beyond our bodies.
So instead of consciousness being stuck in our brains, it could be interconnected with like a universal network of consciousness.
It's a wild thought.
It is, and it kind of makes me think about those NDEs where people feel this overwhelming sense of oneness.
Exactly. Van Lommel thinks that NDEs might be moments when that connection to the larger consciousness becomes more clear.
Like we're tuning into a different frequency.
Yeah, it's like our individual consciousness is just a wave on the surface of this vast ocean.
Okay, I like that.
And during an NDE, it's like we briefly merge back into that ocean.
We experience that interconnectedness in its fullness. Wow, okay, so there's entanglement.
Yeah.
What other quantum physics concepts come into play here?
Well, there's also the observer effect.
Oh yeah, the observer effect.
What was that again? So it's this idea that the act of observing something can actually change how it behaves.
Wait, really?
Yeah, especially at the quantum level.
So you're saying just by looking at something, we might be influencing it?
It seems that way.
That's kind of trippy.
It is, and it challenges this traditional view that consciousness is just a passive observer.
Right, like we're just watching the world go by.
Quantum physics suggests that our consciousness might actually play a role in shaping reality.
Whoa. Okay, so if our consciousness can influence things at the quantum level, could it be that we have more power to shape our reality than we realize?
Van Lommel thinks so.
That's a pretty empowering thought.
It is, and he even suggests that practices like meditation might help us cultivate that connection with non-local consciousness.
So we can like strengthen that link.
Exactly, and potentially enhance our ability to influence things.
So it's not just about understanding this stuff intellectually.
No.
It's about actually applying it to our lives.
Right, and Van Lommel takes it even further.
How so?
Well, he suggests that DNA might act as a kind of quantum antenna.
A quantum antenna. Okay, what does that even mean?
So basically, he's saying that DNA might be able to receive and transmit information from non-local consciousness.
So it's like our connection point to this larger field of awareness.
Exactly.
That's pretty wild, and it kind of ties back into that epigenetic stuff we were talking about before.
Right, how our thoughts and beliefs can actually influence our genes.
Wow. This is all so incredibly fascinating.
It really is.
It makes you wonder what other mysteries about consciousness are still out there waiting to be discovered.
Right, it's like we've only just scratched the surface.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah,
I'm realizing that we've gone way beyond just talking about near-death experiences.
we have.
We've been exploring the nature of consciousness itself.
And it's clear that it's way more complex and mysterious than we ever imagined.
Absolutely. NDEs have given us this incredible glimpse into the vastness of our being.
Yeah, it's like they've opened up a whole new realm of possibilities.
And what's really exciting is that this is just the beginning of the exploration.
Totally.
There's so much more to learn and discover.
For sure, and there are so many brilliant minds out there who are working on it.
Exactly. And for anyone listening who's feeling inspired to learn more,
Yeah.
we'll be sure to include some links in the show notes to resources where you can dive deeper into all of this.
Definitely check those out.
Because ultimately, the journey of understanding consciousness is an ongoing one.
It's all about asking questions and staying curious.
And embracing the mystery.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
It's been a great conversation.
It has. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the world of NDEs and non-local consciousness.
My pleasure.
And remember, the exploration doesn't end here.
No, keep asking questions.
Stay curious and keep diving deep.
Until next time.
Bye, everyone.